The blood pooled around her feet as she stared at what remained of her nephew. 3 days of starvation had made her do the unthinkable. Sarah had been hiding her true nature for 10 years in Canberra, a coastal town where fishing boats came and went like clockwork. The war had ended 2 years ago, but the effect still lingered. Food was scarce. People were suspicious, and vampires like her had to be even more careful. She worked at the fish markets during the day, her pale skin covered by long sleeves and a wide hat. The smell of fish masked other scents that might give her away. Most people thought she was just another survivor trying to make it through hard times. They had no idea what she really was. The hunger had been getting worse. During the war, there were always bodies. Soldiers who died in battle. Civilians caught in crossfire. She never had to kill anyone herself. She just fed on the already dead. But now, in peacetime, finding blood was nearly impossible. Sarah tried everything. She caught birds and drank their blood. She bought pig blood from the butcher, claiming it was for traditional medicine. She even tried drinking fish blood, though it made her sick for days. Nothing satisfied the burning need inside her. Her sister Maya had moved to town with her son Kito after her husband died in the fighting. She was trying to rebuild her life, working as a seamaid at the local clinic. Kito was 12, quiet and smart. He reminded Sarah of herself at that age, before everything changed. The boy started visiting Sarah every evening after school. They would sit by the harbor and Kito would tell her about his day. The child was lonely. His mother worked long hours. The other kids at school treated him differently because he was new in town. Sarah became his closest friend. But the hunger never stopped growing. 3 months passed. Sarah was losing weight. Her hands shook constantly. Her vision blurred during the day. The fish market owner started asking questions about her health. People were beginning to notice. That evening, Kito came as usual. He had a cut on his hand from falling off his bicycle. The smell hit Sarah immediately. Fresh blood, sweet and warm. Her mouth watered. Her hands trembled worse than ever. She told herself to send the boy home, to bandage the cut and make him leave, but the hunger was too strong. 10 years of control vanished in seconds. When it was over, Sarah sat in her small house with her nephew's body. The hunger was gone, but something else had died inside her too. She had become the monster she had spent decades avoiding. The town would search for Kito. They would ask questions. Maya would be destroyed, and Sarah would have to disappear again, just like she had done so many times before. She cleaned up the mess and wrapped the body carefully. That night, she took it far out to sea in a borrowed fishing boat. The ocean would hide what she had done. It always did. When she returned to shore, Sarah packed her few belongings. By morning, she was on a ship heading north to another town, another identity, another chance to pretend she was human. Behind her, Maya would wake up to find her son missing. She would call the police. She would search every street in Canberra. But she would never know that the monster she was looking for had already disappeared into the night. Before Sarah became a vampire, she was 17 when she first met Hosani years ago. Sarah worked in her father's pottery shop, making clay pots her mother sold at market. Hosani arrived one autumn morning with a trading caravan carrying salt, spices, and cloth. Sarah was drawing water from the village well when she saw him. He was tall and well-built, with light skin that seemed to glow in sunlight. His clothes were finer than anything she had ever seen. While other traders bargained loudly, Hosani stood quietly watching. Their eyes met across the dusty market square. Sarah felt her heart race, her hands tremble as she carried the water bucket home. The traders stayed 3 days. Each morning, Sarah found excuses to walk past their camp. On the third evening, returning from collecting clay, Hosani stepped from behind a tree. They walked together in moonlight, talking about everything and nothing. When the traders left, Sarah felt like part of her soul had been torn away. Months passed before he returned alone. Sarah ran to him without caring who might see. They embraced in front of the whole village, and she knew she loved him completely. Hosani stayed this time, renting a small house and starting his own trading business. Sarah helped him, learning about cloth and spices. They were happy, though something about Hosani seemed strange. He never ate during the day, his skin was always cool, and he avoided the village priest and church. They married when Sarah was 22. The whole village celebrated with dancing that lasted until dawn. 3 peaceful years passed. They talked about children and building a larger house. The accident happened when Hosani was away trading. Sarah borrowed a horse and cart to visit her cousin, delivering medicine for a sick baby. In the darkness, something spoke to the horse. It bolted in panic, throwing Sarah against a sharp rock. Pain shot through her skull as blood flowed down her face. She lay dying for hours until Hosani found her. He had returned early and searched all night following the horse's tracks. Seeing her fatal injuries, he made the choice that changed everything. With tears in his eyes, Hosani revealed the truth. He was a vampire who had lived for hundreds of years. He could save her life, but she would become like him. Immortal but cursed to drink blood, forced to live in hiding forever. Sarah was too weak to speak, but nodded. She wanted to live, to be with Hosani, whatever the cost. He bit into her neck. The bite was sharp. For 3 days she hovered between life and death. Then she woke, reborn, senses sharpened, thirst raging. Hosani taught her how to endure, how to feed without destroying, how to survive as monsters still clinging to love. Sarah learned to love her new existence because she shared it with Hosani. They were partners in everything. Their happiness ended when the hunters came. Not peasants with stakes, but trained vampire hunters armed with silver blades, specially made for killing vampires, tracking Hosani across 3 countries. They struck at sunrise, when vampires were weakest. Hosani woke Sarah and told her to run. He promised to follow, though his eyes betrayed the truth. He would not survive. She wanted to fight, but he made her promise to leave. She fled into the forests, and miles away heard his death scream tear the morning air. Days later, she returned. There was no body, only ash scattered on the wind. It has been over 200 years since Hosani died and since Kito's death. Maya was long gone, buried in a cemetery that no longer existed in a town that had been swallowed by a modern city. Even if Kito had lived, he would have died of old age decades ago. But the guilt remained with Sarah like a scar that never healed. Sarah had learned to build wealth as an immortal. She would establish identities, invest carefully, and become rich over decades. When people noticed she never aged, she would convert everything to gold and disappear to a new continent. She had lived in every major city at least twice. This time she was Dr. Sarah Chen, a technology investor. After 18 years, neighbors were asking questions. Her doorman commented that she looked exactly the same as when she moved in. It was time to disappear again. The apartment was nearly empty. Sarah planned to leave for Neo Tokyo the next morning. That was when he appeared. She spun around to find a man sitting in her chair. He had entered her locked apartment silently despite the building's advanced security. He was tall with dark skin and ancient eyes. His presence filled the room like smoke. He introduced himself as Marcus, a vampire for over 1,000 years. He had been following her movements for decades, tracking her from city to city. He knew about her guilt over Kito, her loneliness since Hosani's death, her exhaustion from centuries of pretending to be human. Marcus explained that vampire memories left traces in old places. He had visited where Kito died and felt her anguish there. He had been to where Hosani was killed and felt their love's psychic imprints. He had followed these emotional trails to find her. Most vampires went insane from immortality, Marcus said. They became monsters or hermits, or walked into sunlight to die. But a few retained enough humanity to suffer from their condition. These were the rarest and most tormented. Marcus had spent 50 years searching for others like himself. He wanted to share something he had discovered. In remote mountains lived an ancient woman with power to grant 2 gifts to vampires. She could restore their humanity, letting them live normal mortal lives until natural death, or she could grant true death, ending their existence permanently and peacefully. Marcus withdrew a leather pouch containing crystallized tears of the ancient woman. Each crystal contained her power and compassion, serving as proof of her existence and a guide to her dwelling. They would grow warm when Sarah traveled in the right direction. Sarah felt immediate warmth and hope when she touched them. Marcus said he would return to accept the woman's gift of true death once he fulfilled this mission of finding Sarah. After Marcus vanished, Sarah stood alone holding the crystal tears. Outside, the city hummed with millions living their brief, bright lives. She had been outside that cycle for 3 centuries, watching everyone she cared about age and die while she remained frozen in time. The choice was simple but final. She could request mortality or true death. Sarah picked up her suitcase and walked toward the door. She would not go to Neo Tokyo. Instead, she would follow the crystals to finally choose how her story would end. After 300 years of running from death, she was ready to embrace it on her own terms. The journey took Sarah 3 weeks. The crystal tears led her across oceans and continents, through modern cities and ancient forests. She traveled by private jet to the Himalayan region, then by helicopter to a remote valley that appeared on no maps. From there, she continued on foot into mountains that seemed untouched by time. The crystals grew warmer with each step, their inner light pulsing like heartbeats. The path wound upward through clouds and mist, past waterfalls that cascaded into hidden pools. The air grew thin and pure. On the final day, Sarah found a dwelling. It was not a hut, as she had expected, but a simple cave carved into the living rock of the mountain. Ancient symbols covered the entrance, glowing faintly in languages that predated human civilization. The woman inside was beyond age or description. She existed more as presence than form, shifting between shadow and light. When she spoke, her voice came from everywhere and nowhere. She already knew why Sarah had come. The choice was simple. She could restore Sarah's mortality, allowing her to live a normal human lifespan and die naturally of old age. Or she could grant true death, ending her existence completely and peacefully. Sarah did not hesitate. She had seen enough sunrises and sunsets to last 1,000 lifetimes. She had loved and lost more than any heart should bear. The thought of even 50 more years as a human felt like another prison sentence. The woman nodded with understanding. She gestured for Sarah to lie down on a bed of soft moss near the back of the cave. The ending would be gentle, she promised. Sarah would simply fall asleep and never wake up. As darkness closed around her, Sarah's last thoughts were of Hosani waiting for her in whatever came after life. For the first time in 3 centuries, she smiled with genuine peace. The ancient woman watched over Sarah until her breathing stopped completely. Then she gathered the crystal tears that had guided this lost soul home and prepared to wait for the next vampire who would seek the gift of final rest.